Have you ever wondered what would happen if Gojo was reborn with all his memories and turned evil? Would it completely shift the balance of power in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen? Would Sukuna survive this time? Or would this mark the beginning of a new era of sorcerers, led by none other than Satoru Gojo himself? But before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Now, in the original story, when Gojo was sent to the afterlife, he met Geto, Nanami, and Haibara. There, he expressed satisfaction. He said he gave it his all, admitted that Sukuna was stronger, and found peace in dying as a warrior rather than living on as a lonely god. But this time, Gojo rejects Geto's comfort. He refuses to accept that trying his best was enough. Instead, he concludes that his humanity was his greatest weakness. In his final moment of consciousness, he forms a binding vow with his own soul, fueled by overwhelming negative emotion, declaring that if he is given another chance, he will discard everything: his morals, his mercy, and above all, his humanity. And then, in an instant, everything goes black. When he opens his eyes, he is a newborn infant, retaining all the memories of his past life. But this time, he is no longer the same man. He is someone who has willingly stripped away his humanity in exchange for a second chance at life. Now, in this new timeline, the balance of power is totally unclear. So let's stop discussing and just ask Gojo what he is gonna do this time. Gojo, are you confident you can beat Sukuna this time?
Please, with no morals holding me back, I'd crush that curse in seconds. Just wait and see what I am about to do.
Okay, tough crowd, but let's see if Sukuna thinks he can stop him. Sukuna, do you think you can defeat Gojo this time?
As if that brat could ever dictate terms to me. I'll slice him apart before he even lifts a finger. He's still just a fish on a cutting board. A pathetic weakling who thinks he can challenge me.
And yet, talking with Gojo and Sukuna is just the beginning, because with this new free app called Polybuzz, you can talk with your favorite anime characters all the time and have all sorts of discussions with them as if they were actually your best friends. Whether it's Goku, Gojo, Ichigo, Luffy, or even your favorite waifus like Nami, Robin, Hinata, and many more, Polybuzz makes this a reality. And what can you talk about with them? Anything. And I mean anything. It's free, enjoyable, and the best part, as an anime fan, you will never get bored of it, as the selection of anime characters they have is honestly endless. Use code ANNIE11 to get access to 3 days of premium membership completely free of charge. Use my link in the description down below to download Polybuzz AI and start chatting with your favorite anime characters today. Believe me, you will not regret it. But now, let's get back to the video. After this, Gojo essentially waits until he reaches an age where he can begin training himself properly. Before that, since his body isn't fully developed, he spends his time planning, carefully deciding what he will do differently this time around. And the moment Gojo turns 6 years old, his training begins. Unlike the original timeline, where he had to discover the mechanics of Limitless through trial and error, this Gojo already possesses the muscle memory and theoretical mastery of a 29-year-old special grade sorcerer. He completely bypasses the foundational learning curve. He masters Infinity and begins refining the output of Blue. At this point, he is already operating at a grade 1 level, making him an absolute prodigy for his age. For the time being, however, Gojo chooses not to change anything in this timeline. He allows the corruption of the higher-ups to continue unchecked. He permits the Zenin clan to abuse their members, including Toji, without interference. And more importantly, he allows Kenjaku's plans to quietly take root in the shadows. Then, as soon as Gojo turns 16, he enrolls at Tokyo Jujutsu High, because now it's time to set his plans into motion. Unlike the original timeline, where he was still figuring out reverse curse technique and couldn't keep Infinity active at all times, this version of Gojo already understands the theory of reverse curse technique perfectly, and because of that, he officially ascends to the rank of special grade. Here, just like in the original timeline, Gojo reunites with Geto, and honestly, Geto is the most most crucial element of Gojo's entire plan. Because of that, Gojo begins to act. He laughs with Geto, complains about the heat, and plays the role of the arrogant teenager. Internally, however, he is bored. He already knows every line of dialogue before it's spoken. He's simply waiting for the mission to escort the star plasma vessel Riko Amanai, and the moment they receive it, Gojo follows the same path. He escorts Riko, goes through the motions of the beach vacation, and pretends to relax, fully aware of exactly when and where the threat will strike. Just like in the original, Toji ambushes Gojo at the entrance of Tokyo Jujutsu High. In the original timeline, this was a near-death experience that forced Gojo to awaken his true potential, but this time is different. This Gojo already knows everything, and despite that, he deliberately suppresses his cursed energy output to 0, perfectly simulating biological death, so that Toji truly believes he's dead. This is important because Gojo understands one crucial thing. If he stops Toji here, Riko Amanai lives, and if Riko lives, Geto remains a righteous sorcerer, someone who still believes in protecting the weak. And to create the partner he needs, Gojo allows Riko to die. He sacrifices the girl to break his best friend. But this isn't the only reason he lets Riko die. Well, stick around till the end, you'll understand it soon enough. After this, Gojo eliminates Toji because he no longer has any use for him. And when Toji, in his final moments, begins to speak about his son Megumi, Gojo simply responds, "Don't bother, I already know about your son. He'll be a great tool for the world I'm about to create." The aftermath unfolds much the same. Geto is traumatized by his failure to protect Riko, but the most damaging moment comes when Gojo and Geto carry Riko's body out, and the members of the Star religious group, basically non-sorcerers, are smiling and clapping in celebration of a teenage girl's death. And instead of comforting him, Gojo lets Geto absorb the ugliness of humanity, completely unfiltered. From here, events continue as before. Geto speaks with Yuki, gains a new perspective, saves Mimiko and Nanako by slaughtering their village, and officially severs his ties with Jujutsu High. But this is where everything changes. This time, when Geto meets Gojo again, Gojo doesn't question his morality. Instead, he tells Geto that he has reached the same conclusion, that the weak only dampen the strong. He tells them that they can create a world made solely for sorcerers, a world where no one else has to suffer again. And instead of opposing him, Gojo does something unthinkable. He asks Geto to let him stand by his side. Geto is stunned. The isolation, the loneliness, the crushing burden of being the only one who understands. All of it fades away as the strongest sorcerer alive, his best friend, fully agrees with him. Meaning in this timeline, Satoru Gojo and Suguru Geto finally join hands. With that, the balance of power completely collapses. The higher-ups receive a report stating that Gojo did not execute the traitor, but joined him instead. Overnight, Jujutsu High loses nearly 90% of its combat power. And although Gojo and Geto could have attacked the higher-ups immediately, they don't. Instead, they vanish for the time being. Now, before we move ahead, if you are enjoying this video so far, why not subscribe? Yeah, go on, click it. After this, Gojo finally reveals the full scope of his plan to Geto. He explains that simply killing non-sorcerers would be messy, inefficient, and short-sighted. Instead, he proposes something far greater, a complete structural takeover of the world itself through a ritual known as the Merger. Gojo tells Geto that this wouldn't just create a world only for sorcerers, it would elevate them into literal gods of that world. But to achieve this, Gojo demands one thing above all else: Geto's absolute loyalty. Geto, relieved to finally have a clear path and a partner who truly shares his burden, pledges his loyalty without hesitation. With that settled, the first phase of the plan begins, recruiting the strongest allies while eliminating future threats. Gojo starts exactly where he promised Toji he would, by visiting young Megumi Fushiguro. He takes Megumi in just like in the original timeline, but this time the bond is very different. Megumi isn't a student or a surrogate son, he's a tool. Gojo manipulates Megumi by telling him the world is dangerous for Sumiki, that non-sorcerers are the ones who create the curses that will eventually kill her. He convinces Megumi that the only way to protect his sister is to build a new world ruled entirely by sorcerers. From that moment on, Megumi's training becomes brutal. Gojo forces him into life or death rituals with his Shikigami, pushing him to tame the 10 Shadows technique as early early as possible, explicitly pushing him to unlock Mahoraga before he even turns 15. Gojo does this because he knows the truth. The 10 Shadows technique has historically been the only power considered equal to the 6 Eyes and Limitless. Next, Gojo and Geto move to eliminate the greatest long-term threat of all, Kenjaku. Using his future knowledge, Gojo locates Kenjaku far earlier than in the original timeline. They track him down to Kaori Itadori's body, Yuji's mother. Kenjaku is caught completely off guard. He tries to fight, but facing both Gojo and Geto at once leaves him no chance. Gojo effortlessly bypasses Kenjaku's barriers, already knowing their exact frequency. Now comes the most important part. To extract Kenjaku's knowledge, Geto unleashes a specific special grade curse spirit, capable of mental intrusion. With Kenjaku physically restrained and unable to escape, the curse forcibly extracts everything: the blueprints for the Culling Game, the mechanics behind Tengen's barriers, and the complete details of the merger ritual. They also recover the prison realm, which Kenjaku possessed during this period. Once they have everything they came for, Gojo obliterates Kenjaku on the spot, removing the mastermind of the original story from the board years in advance. As for Yuji, Gojo chooses not to interfere yet. Instead, he orders Geto to place a surveillance seal on the boy to quietly monitor his growth. Though Geto is confused, Gojo assures him that this too is part of the plan. The next recruitment target is Yuta Okkotsu. Here, Gojo waits patiently and allows the tragic incident with Yuta to unfold, where Rika manifests and brutally injures 4 students. This is crucial because it leads the Jujutsu higher-ups to order Yuta's secret execution, branding him a monster who only brings suffering to others. Just as Yuta is about to be executed, Gojo finally shows up. The moment he appears, every higher-up present over there feels overwhelming despair due to an overwhelming gap in their power. Gojo Satoru, absent for years, has finally returned, and no one there possesses the power to even challenge him. He walks past the terrified elders, stops in front of Yuta, and says, "The world wants you dead because they fear your power. They call you a monster, but to me, you're a prodigy." Gojo offers Yuta the only lifeline he has. Broken, traumatized, and desperate to belong, Yuta accepts. And before they can react, Gojo vanishes, taking Yuta with him. From there, Gojo trains Yuta alongside Megumi, shaping him with the ideology of a new world. A world where Yuta and Rika can exist without being hunted. Grateful for his life and salvation, Yuta forms a binding vow, pledging eternal loyalty to Gojo. And just like that, Gojo assembles the strongest squad in the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen's history, consisting of Geto, Yuta, Megumi, and himself. On the other side, Jujutsu High descends into complete panic. Desperate and terrified, the higher-ups place a bounty exceeding 800 million yen on Satoru Gojo. But hey, we all know this is pretty much useless. And with everything finally in place, only one threat remains for Gojo, Sukuna. And for him, Gojo waits patiently until events unfold exactly as they did in the original timeline. He waits until Yuji is old enough, and then sends Megumi to Sugisawa High School on the very same day Yuji consumes Sukuna's first finger. The difference is that this version of Megumi is far stronger than before. If he wanted to, he could have obliterated every curse at the school instantly. But Gojo gives him strict orders: do not engage. The situation must mirror the original as closely as possible, so that Yuji ends up swallowing Sukuna's finger. And just like before, Yuji eats it. Sukuna incarnates, obliterates the nearby curse in an instant, and prepares to rampage, only to be forcibly suppressed by Yuji seconds later. Then Gojo appears. Gojo immediately confirms that Yuji has control, knocks him unconscious, and transports him to a secure base. And with that, Gojo begins the second phase of his plan to eliminate Sukuna once and for all. When Yuji wakes up, he finds himself inside a sealed room, with Gojo standing in front of him. Gojo knows Yuji's grandfather has just died, leaving him with one final request: help people. Gojo twists that ideology mercilessly. He tells Yuji that he was born for a purpose, that he has seen the future and knows what's coming. He tells him the truth: Yuji is the only one capable of caging the King of Curses, and if he walks away, thousands will die. Then Gojo gives him a choice. One life can be saved, Yuji's or everyone else's. Driven by his grandfather's final words and his own selfless nature, Yuji accepts. He willingly embraces his role as a living sacrifice. With his memories intact, Gojo already knows the location of every remaining figure finger. Within days, he collects them all and begins feeding Yuji 1 finger per day. This is critical because by spacing them exactly 24 hours apart, Yuji's body and soul are able to properly assimilate each surge of cursed energy. His mental resistance grows alongside Sukuna's power, keeping the King of Curses suppressed at every stage. To ensure absolute security, Yuji is kept inside a room sealed by a binding vow, one he cannot escape. Though Yuji doesn't resist, he believes this suffering is necessary to save the world. Eventually, Yuji consumes the final finger. Sukuna is now fully incarnated, yet completely trapped inside Yuji's body. Screaming in fury, he tries to persuade Yuji to convince him that Gojo is using him, but Yuji Itadori doesn't waver. No matter the cost, he will save people. Now, with everything finally in place, instead of executing Yuji, Gojo takes the final step. He brings out the Prison Realm, the same cursed object he acquired from Kenjaku. For those who don't know, the Prism Realm normally requires a 1-minute mental processing time to seal its target, and if that condition is met, it can seal anyone, no matter who they are. And because Yuji wants to save everyone, he willingly consents to the sealing. He doesn't resist. As a result, the condition is fulfilled instantly, and just like that, Sukuna is sealed forever. The greatest threat to Gojo's plan is gone, and with that, Phase 2 is complete. There is no one left who can stop Gojo and Geto now, and with that, it's time to begin the final phase of the plan. To begin the final phase, the first thing they need is Mahito, because his technique is absolutely crucial. Once they find him, Gojo doesn't kill him immediately. Instead, he relentlessly batters Mahito with Limitless, pushing the curse to the brink of death over and over again. The reason is simple. For this plan to work, Idle Transfiguration must reach its absolute peak, and the moment Mahito finally achieves that perfected state, Gojo crushes him instantly. Then Geto steps in and absorbs Mahito using Curse Spirit Manipulation. Now, by combining Mahito's technique with Gojo's immense curse energy and using the barrier knowledge stolen from Kenjaku, Geto casts a countrywide barrier across Japan. Through Idle Transfiguration, dormant curse techniques awaken inside thousands of non-sorcerers, creating new sorcerers like Higuruma and Takaba. This marks the beginning of the Culling Game, but this time the rules are different. First, Gojo Satoru, Geto Suguru, and their chosen allies Yuta and Megumi are designated as Game Masters. They are exempt from the point system, but can freely enter colonies to enforce order. Second, players must earn points by eliminating others. If a player's score remains unchanged for 2 days, they are eliminated automatically. Third, the game ends when only the 10 strongest sorcerers remain, excluding the Game Masters. With this, Gojo and Geto achieve 2 objectives at once. First, their dream becomes reality. Only sorcerers will remain. Second, the game generates an unimaginable amount of cursed energy, and soon you'll see exactly what they plan to do with it. While the rest of the world is consumed by the Culling Game, Gojo and Geto make their move toward Master Tengen. Remember when I said that sacrificing Riko Amanai served more than one purpose? Yeah, you will see that second one now. Because Riko died 12 years ago, Tengen failed to merge and lost his humanity, evolving closer to a cursed spirit. That makes him something Geto can now absorb and control. Once Tengen is consumed, Geto gains dominion over every barrier in Japan. With that said, when the Culling Game finally ends, the cursed energy generated is beyond anything seen before. But instead of merging the cursed energy with humanity, like Kenjaku originally planned, Gojo and Geto divert it into themselves. They use it to halt cellular aging, locking their bodies permanently in their prime. They can still be killed, but biologically, they are now immortal. And with that, they achieve everything they wanted, a world ruled only by sorcerers. This marks the beginning of a new era, an era led by Satoru Gojo and his team. And if you want a part 2, let us know in the comments. We can continue the story with Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. Click on this video next, where we break down every victim of Sukuna in Jujutsu Kaisen. Go on, check it out.